All right, and now one of my favorite parts, where I get to admit everyone. And so we'll welcome, I see Maritza's name popped in first. I'll say she got through the door first. And we've got Heidi and Phil and lots of other wonderful guests here today for the webinar. So welcome everybody, and we'll continue to let a few more people in because once the door opens, more and more people just pop right in there, and that's what we want to see. So that's great. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to share just a couple of little brief announcements. And because I am not the person you were here to hear from today, but have to do the commercial break and all that jazz. So anyway, you have arrived in the Friday webinar series. I often make the joke, if that is not where you intended to be, please stay anyway, because it's going to be a great experience. So please stay. Couple of things. I know you are here today to hear from Jenny, but before I can turn it over to her, I want to remind you about a few dates of things coming up in January. Can't believe it's almost January, but in January, you can visit us for the Policy Forum. It's 3 days of speakers, free, very similar to our National Distance Learning Week experience that many of you I know attended recently. So that's January 16th through 18th. So stay tuned to learn more about that and who all the speakers are. We've been advertising some of them in the newsletter, so watch for that. And also, I can now tell you that you can save the date for our national conference next June. That'll be June 17th through 20th. And I think from the picture, you might get a clue as to where we will be. Yes, we will be back in St. Louis, which has been a location that many of you requested when we surveyed all of you a few months ago. So that was one of the top places that you picked. And that is where we are going to be. So again, stay tuned for that. The call for proposals is open. If you're interested in learning more about that, we have information on the website. You can always reach out to me. I'll put my contact information into the chat in just a moment after I finish letting some more people in and doing these final little brief messages, which is that also the call for awards is open. So if you have worked on a project that should be recognized, or someone you know is a trendsetter in their space, please look into the award submission process. And those awards are also given out at the national conference. It'll be a big luncheon, and that's a highlight. We love to share best practices and all the wonderful things that people out in our community are doing. So you may want to consider that. And then finally, I need to thank all of our sponsors, because without them, these Friday webinars and many of our other events would not be possible without their generous support. So if you see one of your sponsors that you work with on the screen, please take a moment before the end of the year, say, happy holidays, reach out to them, let them know that you love their products, or let them know what you'd love to see in the coming years. They love to talk to you. So these are our gold and silver sponsors on the screen. And we also love our bronze sponsors and exhibitors and partners. And I have one of them here with us today, which makes me super happy. So I get to stop sharing now, and I get to turn things back over to Jenny Gordon from GoReact. And I know one of her colleagues, Erin Stanley, is also on the line today. So you may see her pop into the chat. But thank you so much for being here today, Jenny. So over to you. We look forward to what you have to share today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to colleagues today. It's always exciting to share with international kind of presence as well. So I'm coming to you live from London this evening, as it is for me. So wherever you are, hello, and thank you very much for joining us today. So I'm just going to share my screen. So I'm hoping that Valerie will confirm for me that what we're looking at is all right.
Yes,
great, thank
perfect.
you. Perfect. So today I'm going to talk about reframing assessment, and I think that now is the time, you could say, to really think about assessment practice and the way in which we incorporate assessment into our learning processes. And that's because, of course, I'm going to mention it in a minute, but that's because of the growing, increasing use of AI throughout education and through life generally, which is almost acting as a catalyst for us to think about the ways in which we assess and ensure that it's as authentic and appropriate as possible. So today we're going to explore some innovative approaches to assessment in education and how traditional methods often fall short in capturing students and learners' true abilities and fostering authentic learning experiences. GoReact is all about video. We're a learning technology company, but we're very, very focused on the use of video and how it can be used to provide richer and more holistic understanding of learners' performance, whether that be in a formative or in a summative way. Hopefully we'll learn a little bit about the benefits of incorporating video assessment into teaching practice. And if you have any ideas or suggestions or things you'd like to mention, please do feel free to use the chat and to share ideas with colleagues as well. As we come to grips with AI, can we say that yet? I don't know if we can. And what that means for education and life as we know it. I think it's important, as I said, for us to develop our ideas around transforming and adapting assessment so that we are aligning technologies and expectations with the demands of today's education landscape. So I hope we all learned something today. A little bit about us at GoReact, a little bit about me. So at GoReact, I lead our company's strategic and tactical efforts outside our home market, which is the US. Our head office is Utah, and my colleague Erin has joined us today stateside. We're all about bringing skills-based learning through the adoption of video and feedback assessment to new users all around the world. And I've had the pleasure of working with all phases of education and implementing impactful learning technologies intended to improve learning outcomes for nearly 20 years. And been lucky enough to work here in the UK, through Scandinavia, through Central Europe, and I did spend some time in Africa as well. And since joining GoReact during the pandemic, I've led the growth of our business outside of the US, and we've got now more than 5 million users on our platform in more than 850 institutions around the world, and we're really proud of that. And we are so passionate about our customers and our partners who we work with all around the world. We were recently recognized by the Learning Technologies Association for having the most innovative learning technology solution, and the E-Assessment Association awarded us Best Formative Assessment Project recently too. So it's great to hear that, yes, we're a commercial organisation, but we're very, very passionate about ensuring that we're working close with our colleagues to make a difference when it comes to assessment practice as well. So as I said, I don't think it's possible or correct to talk about learning and assessment without mentioning artificial intelligence. It's everywhere. And it's made an explosive entry into every industry, including higher education. And as we wonder how to coexist with AI and its rapidly transforming capabilities, it is leading us to question our existing practices as well. And no matter what side of the AI debate you're on, you can let us know if you want to. I think I'm still making my mind up. And one thing remains clear, and probably more important than ever, now is the time to redefine assessment practices to ensure that learning is engaging, measurable, and relevant, so that learners at whatever stage of their journey are competent and confident. And AI has, at the very least, acted as the catalyst for that conversation. Of course, assessment is crucial to the education process, but it can also be a source of dissatisfaction, frustration, anxiety. Are we doing the best by our learners? Does it assess the right things? Does it take place at the right time? Is it susceptible to cheating? One of the biggest questions being asked at the moment. Does it involve a sustainable workload for our educators? And now more commonly, is it authentic? Existing and emerging technologies are starting to play a role in changing assessment and could help address many of these issues, both today and looking into the future. But how will we collectively make assessment smarter, faster, fairer, and more effective as we see the rapid introduction of new technologies, including artificial intelligence? assessment is a broad term, and I know that you will know that a model like this that was developed here in the UK at Manchester Metropolitan defines the kind of assessment and feedback lifestyle and a feedback life cycle that we're all familiar with. It shows a high level view of the academic process that, like I say, we're familiar with, but it includes also some of the processes involved in assessment and feedback. And it calls us to think about the ways in which different technologies or processes could be included within these different parts of the assessment and feedback lifecycle. And although today's webinar is titled Reframing Assessment, that doesn't mean that we have to throw everything away that we've established over hundreds and hundreds of years of successful education and assessment. There's long-standing and successful models that don't need to be thrown away and started again. We have excellent assessment principles and effective feedback cycles in place already. But if we are really to embrace technology and solutions in the marketplace, whether they be AI, video, or other things, how can we use them to create a higher set of expectations for students who want more for themselves, who want better outcomes, and who want to be more prepared for the workplace? And whether we use technology enough in these processes remains questionable. We know that change is slow in education often, but with the introduction of ChatGPT, for example, and the rise of AI in whatever format each one of us concludes that to be, perhaps change may happen more quickly. In the meantime, learning doesn't stop, teaching doesn't stop, and assessment doesn't stop, and graduates and employees need to continue to develop professionally, and we need to continue to educate for the skills of the future. So what are we doing today to ensure that our students are more employable, that our existing talent is more ready for the future? Let's have a little think about what we're already doing and how we can adapt using some of those technologies already available. I mentioned the assessment principles already, and I think certainly GoReact and our teams of instructional designers and the organizations and institutions we work with are very focused on those principles, whether it's including the use of technology or not. But these are our guiding lights when it comes to assessment, and it comes to thinking about how we can incorporate and reframe assessment, but committing to these principles as we do so. Traditional assessment methods include fill in the blank tests or multiple choice questions, perhaps an essay, and similar assessment tools that we're all very familiar with. And these types of assessments are staples of our current education system, and primarily because they're quite easy to grade. However, while these types of assessment can provide a snapshot of the student's mastery of a particular subject, key facts at a specific time, for example, they don't fully evaluate how well students will be able to apply that knowledge to what they'll be doing after graduation. And anyone who has gone through traditional higher education will attest that it's common to cram for exams. I've got two university students at the minute that are cramming for exams as part of their degree. They simply memorizing the facts so that they pass the test. They're regurgitating the information that they have remembered and painstakingly revised so that they get the highest mark they can. But is it true that they perhaps quickly forget a lot of that information after that exam is over? And is this the same in corporate environments as well? In some cases where upskilling involves an e-learning module and perhaps little or no evidence of application. We're at a crucial juncture in education and job training, as is well talked about, and the narrative is very strong as we prepare skills for the future, as we prepare current workforce for the future and future workforce as well. At the moment, we know that a lot of the existing roles we need to train people for are critically underfilled, and that there aren't enough people who can do the jobs at the right standards. So we are educating a lot of people, but not necessarily in the right things or in the right way. And additionally, we are in this interesting limbo where we're not really sure what students, graduates, or current employees need to be trained for in the future as well. Yet, for various reasons, we're still training them and assessing them in very, very traditional ways, through essays, for example, rather than through practical or authentic assessment. So what can educators and employees do? What is needed is a move away from traditional assessment methods towards more authentic assessment strategies. What is authentic assessment? It's another great debate to have. But ideally, authentic assessment helps students learn new material and apply it over an extended period of time in valuable ways, rather than simply cramming and regurgitating and possibly forgetting the information that they've learned. The goal of these assessments is to show how well a student or a learner can apply what they learn in the classroom to real life scenarios or real work scenarios. And by mirroring tasks and skills that will be used when they're employed or in the workforce, rather than simply completing a traditional writing assignment, quiz, or exam that might not have application later. So we need to educate students and employees on how to learn and how to apply, rather than just absorbing knowledge. So we come full circle to talk about video specifically. Obviously, GoReact is a video company, and we're very passionate on the use of video in structured ways, as well as embracing the way that video is used and accepted in unstructured ways as well. I have 4 children at very different stages of education, finishing a university degree, middle of a university degree, and 2 much younger children, all of whom accept video as a significant part or medium of content that they consume, whether it be in a formal environment, learning content, or whether it be in an informal environment outside of education through Be Real or Instagram or other types of video consumption services. We've become very accustomed to liking or giving feedback on video in an unstructured way as well. So young people and not so young people, including myself, take video and accept video as a medium that is accessible. The storage of video, the quality of video are all questions that we talk about very often at GoReact. But let's look at it as an important medium and way of capturing evidence and feeding back on different parts of the learning process. Delivering authentic assessment can be a challenge, but to address those challenges, educators and employees need a solution that allows them to navigate the challenges of AI while embracing the benefits too. Video and feedback tools to deliver authentic assessments, allowing students and educators to leverage AI as a complementary tool, not a replacement, in the learning process, is really important. Video allows learners to demonstrate not only the knowledge that they've consumed, but the skills that they will need perhaps after graduation or throughout their learning process. Video also produces evidence of learning and can enable self-reflection, peer and instructor feedback, all vital components to lifelong learning. Video and feedback tools help educators and employees design assessments that foster critical thinking and problem solving, ensuring that students acquire not just information, but also the ability to apply that information. The role of AI in education is evolving, as we've talked about, and the educators and employees striving to strike a balance between embracing its potential and preserving traditional instructional values. The key to harness AI as a complement to and not a replacement for instruction, video and feedback software. It empowers you to do just that. Through COVID, many organizations and institutions were forced to expand their solutions, the types of services that they had available to continue to successfully deliver education and assessment. And in distance learning, that has always been the case. In fact, the experts perhaps, where the rest of the industry learned how to take different products and services to deliver to the excellent high standards that we saw throughout COVID and have continued to see. But while some institutions limited the expansion to synchronous learning technologies, many others diversified their offerings as they expanded. And so nuanced collections of social, active and experiential learning technologies were suddenly accessible to faculty and students in every department across campus. So those that weren't used to delivering remote education suddenly became, well, certainly able to. Capable, perhaps, is something that's still evolving. Along with video conferencing, obviously, the collaboration tools and the noteworthy transformation was video-based assessment. Certainly where we saw significant growth, where institutions had to continue delivering learning and assessment, and they came to us for that exact solution. So we saw enterprise level adoption increase, faculty awareness, and it demonstrated the broad applicability of different video solutions and different products and services at that time, which we've then seen continue. And the growth and further development of this sort of learning technology landscape has become solidified. But it's also pushed vendors to scale effectively too, providing things like captioning for user-generated content and to evolve to support a spectrum of synchronous and asynchronous learning activities. And studies agree that the magic formula for skill development is a combination of video and feedback. And most courses are built around summative assessments, final tests and exams and projects and final opportunities to demonstrate something, often an entire unit, or course, or years worth of learning. But the problem with that approach is its finality. And summative assessment evaluates the end of the learning over time without contributing to the progress of learning over time. And during COVID, when we saw institutions come and ask for solutions and to the challenge of continuing assessment, that was the main focus. We need to assess at the end point. We need to find a place that, or a solution that can assess something at the very end. And as we know, in contrast to that summative assessment process, that formative assessment not only measures, but helps improve learning and skill development over time or throughout the term of learning. And many instructors steer away from that because it's too time consuming or difficult to implement. But we suggested that the solution for both of those challenges is video. And due to the pandemic forcing more to think about it, due to more learners wanting to learn in different ways, due to the growth of remote instruction, we see that video is now being used not only for that summative assessment, but for a formative approach to learning and assessment as well. And formative and summative should work hand in hand. There's obviously a place for both. Using video for formative assessment gives instructors a fast and flexible way to monitor student progress and to facilitate student success through targeted feedback, personalised learning, and self or peer evaluation, so they know where to focus their efforts as they do prepare for those final exams. So in summary, we think there are 4 primary advantages to employing video as an authentic assessment tool. Video assessment provides learners with the opportunity to practice and self-reflect, and learning through practice and self-reflection has proven to increase the likelihood of memory permanence, automatically increase the ability to transfer practice skills to new or more complex problems, and increase expertise in the subject matter, and cognitive gains that increase motivation for learning. By allowing students to review their video assignment prior to submission, the students inherently begin the process of self-reflection. We think that video-based assessment allows students opportunities to collaborate with their peers. Peer grading and feedback enable students to effectively assess themselves, as well as exposing them to alternative ways of approaching a task. Peer grading enables students to view their peers' work while providing detailed feedback on their perceptions. And it also enables students to gain valuable insights and learnings of their own along the way. We think that video-based assessment provides efficiencies for educators too. Authentic assessment is inherently more labour-intensive than legacy assessment methods, but incorporating video allows professors' grading and feedback to be quicker, more detailed, and include more actionable feedback for students. And by using video-based assessment for hands-on clinical assessment, institutions can see a cost saving as faculty are able to limit on-site observations and time it takes to provide feedback to each student. Video-based assessment obviously can take place anywhere, anytime too, another benefit. And finally, video-based assessment enhances students' learning through the help and helps produce graduated professionals who are ready to work in today's workplace. They've practiced, they've had feedback on, and they are ready to take those skills that they've been able to demonstrate straight away as they begin their life in work. Employees want to hire graduates who can solve diverse problems and apply knowledge quickly and confidently. So video-based assessment and feedback allows students to continue that learning process even after they've completed the assessment, and critical thinking skills are improved and authenticity is maintained. So what is GoReact specifically, and how does it enable some of these great things that we've just looked at? Well, some say that the future of assessment lies in two domains. The first, limiting the sort of damage to human development created by somewhat institutionalized assessment and assessment processes. And the second, building assessments that mirror the processes by which individuals develop their capabilities as learners and that can be used to provide formative feedback to learners to support their development. So the role of feedback within this assessment process, as we all know, is absolutely crucial and fundamental to ensuring that that ongoing learning process is enabled. We love this quote because everything that we've talked about today around assessment principles, using different technologies, the ability to practice and have the knowledge and the skills in readiness for the next stage of somebody's progression, whether that be into employment or finishing formal education. We believe that this combination of an opportunity to practice, to demonstrate, and to get feedback is fundamental to that, and that video can promote continuous learning that transforms potential into mastery. There's no limit to the amount that you can practice when it comes to video. We're very focused on being designed for learning. We're very focused on working with our educators who support us in developing tools as part of our product that really enhance the opportunity to feedback and assess. Very safe environment, that's one of the questions that we get asked a lot when it comes to video. Where are my videos stored? How safe is it? And safeguarding is paramount importance to us here at GoReact. We have different servers based around the world to satisfy different hosting requirements. And of course, our team are all trained on data privacy and data processing very regularly throughout the year. But most importantly, we're very focused on working with our colleagues and partners to ensure that if you are considering using video as part of your feedback and assessment process, that we integrate with and work with the existing ecosystem that you've got in place and the different instructional design elements that create an authentic assessment or an assessment that's absolutely right for that student or that cohort and the topics and the skills that you're teaching. With GoReact, I see that the time I spend on video feedback is actually resulting in learner improvement, and my whole approach to teaching has changed. And that's what we're all here for. We're here to enhance learner improvement in the necessary ways for today and for the future. And we're here to support each other in ensuring that teaching and assessment practices constantly adapt and constantly change and are constantly redefined to ensure that they're the right processes for our learners in whatever area that might be. Ultimately, we want our learners to be satisfied, to consistently improve and attain well, and be ready for the next step in their career. We have created a guide that supports authentic assessments, whether that be the taking AI and thinking about how that might impact some of your delivery or some of your courses, or whether it be considering video as a medium for assessing or giving feedback to students. We've created a guide. You can take a little snapshot of the QR code that's on the screen now, and you'll be taken directly to that guide. It's completely free of charge. It's a set of resources that we hope would be really helpful for you when you're considering some of the things that we've looked at today, whether that be video, artificial intelligence, or different technologies that you might be considering within your feedback and assessment processes. So I've covered an awful lot within the last almost half an hour, and I'd love to ask if there are any questions from any of the attendees so far. And I'll stop sharing my screen so that I can see the chat and open it up for any question or discussion.
I didn't see any questions come in just yet, but I think people were just paying attention to all of the information you were giving them. So I know this is a very curious audience. I recognize many of the names, so please feel free. As she said, make use of the chat. It's a small group as well. I think we could, in an orderly fashion, even unmute if someone would like to verbalize their question as well. So feel free if you would care to do that as well.
I have a question.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay. So I've been to a lot of the GoReact AI sessions, and I've really been following, and I'm on the AI task force at our university. So I'm really, really into this. And I guess the question I really want to put out there is, how would you, I know it's like really open-ended, but how could you encourage authentic use of GoReact with having students use other things like ChatGPT to problem solve? I mean, have you encountered that at all?
We have. Thank you for your question. It's a brilliant question. You know, we are often where educators are in a very vocational or skills-based course, the kind of use of video or GoReact to capture demonstrable elements of that course is very obvious. However, we get a lot of questions from our partners and our colleagues about, like, I teach classics, or I'm teaching English, for example. How can we use GoReact? And we don't really understand, you know, how we can incorporate that with alongside ChatGPT, as you say. Well, you know, asking our students to present findings, whether that be simply presenting the conclusion to their essay, whether it be presenting some sort of element of discussion that they might be having among a group about something that they've read together. There's a great way of being able to ask students on the fly to answer a question about something or to summarize something they've written. So they might have borrowed ChatGPT. They might have used that as a tool to help them build their case. But what you want to do is to assess whether or not they've truly understood that by summarizing or responding to a question that you give them on the fly. And we're seeing people using GoReact just like that. Submit an essay if you want to, use AI if you want to help you build that essay, but then present to us a response to this question that I will give you through GoReact, so that you have to answer it in a live manner. So that's one way. Another way is asking a group of learners to come together and debate a question that they haven't seen before the video starts recording, so that you can hear if they've really read and understood something, and then can have a debate and a discussion about it. And that really does enhance the way that you can see if they've read, understood, consumed correctly the information that you've given them, and also give you a way of seeing them deliver that assessment in a different form. You can see them presenting, you can see them having a debate. And those are the things that we might never have seen our students do before if they were submitting traditional essays. So I think it's a change to the format and the change of the way we're asking our students to engage with things, but can be done through what we believe is quite an accessible product in sense of GoReact, but using video to do that can be a very strong way of enabling that to happen.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Thanks, Heather.
Any other questions? Everybody's so shy today. It must be, I think it's that end of year thing. We're starting to people are like, I'm questioned out. But I was, just to your point, Jenny, I would say I've seen people talking about the value of this summarizing or just presenting as a skill set that students need to gain as they go out into the workforce, because many times their job interviews, their first job interview is going to be over Zoom or going to be in a video format. And so giving them those opportunities, finding those opportunities for them to get comfortable on the fly, as you said, a question they've never heard before. That's such a valuable, I think that's such a valuable skill set that you can build into any subject matter, whatever that is, just that ability to communicate comfortably and, as you said, and spontaneously, that's the word I'm looking for, around a topic. So I think I really appreciated that answer as well. So
I'd agree with that, just as an extension. And I think that how do you mark that though? I remember as a university student having to do a presentation, standing up in front of my seminar group, or whatever it might be, or even a bigger group. And so a lot of our educators will say, well, how do we mark that? And I said, well, how do you mark them when they do a presentation in front of you? Where is your mark sheet? Let's take that mark sheet and adapt it to a digital format. But now you could, and I think this is particularly interesting with this audience with distance learning, is that your students could be anywhere presenting something. And as you say, they've become confident with the use of video. I mean, here's me flailing my arms around, for example. That's something that I do all the time. The feedback I've had is, Jenny, please, can you put your arms down and stop doing this all the time? So, but some institutions continue to ask their students to present at the front of a class or a seminar group, but still record it, because the added advantage of recording it on video allows the students to reflect on their own performance in a way that they haven't done before. They can perhaps listen to themselves debating, they can hear their tone of voice, they can listen out for listening skills, and the way that they're engaging with each other. And those sorts of things are an added value of recording students doing something, things that they can start to reflect on themselves rather than just having that feedback from an instructor or an educator. So there's a lot of value add, as well as using GoReact to record and to present things. What else are we getting out of it? We're building up that ability to self-reflect, which is a skill set in itself, perhaps to share with peers as well. And in doing that, you're building up this great bank of best practice and ideas, and other sorts of resources that other students down the line can benefit from as well.
I love that. And just you started out talking about authentic assessment, and the word authentic being I think it was one of the finalists for like Word of the Year this year. But authentic is there's a lot of discussion around it. And I think that also just to your point, this is an authentic representation of the student in a way that not that their writing isn't, but I think about a lot of non-traditional students, perhaps students for whom English is a second language, or students on who are neurodivergent. And so, giving them those opportunities to have a multiple modes of communicating and expressing themselves, I think the instructor gets a more authentic, holistic picture of the student and what they've done. So I think that, it all just, I don't know. I like when it all kind of connects in different ways.
Absolutely. And I that word authentic, it's certainly something that we have used a lot this year. Authentic doesn't mean we tend to go, don't we, when we have a conversation about assessment, into proctoring and cheating and authenticity of somebody who submitted something, but actually the authenticity of the type of assessment that we're enabling for our learners. Is it the right type of assessment methodology or principle to suit that assignment? What is it that we're assessing? And is it right that we're doing it on a written essay when actually the students could be presenting something or demonstrating something that they've done? And so I think that in itself is a way to look at authenticity as well.
So I'm still looking in the chat. The chat's free, by the way. I just thought I'd mention that. I don't charge you to use it. So feel free, again, if you do have questions, or if you've used video in any of these ways that Jenny and Heather's question and things we've been talking about, if you have examples of how video has helped you, I'm sure others could benefit from that as well, because you may have used it in a slightly different way than others in the group. So if anybody, I hope you're using GoReact, but even if you're using other video or just, that might be interesting as well. If anyone has a story, something they would like to pass along. All right. You're so quiet today. I have never had this quiet of a group. I'm telling you, it's the holiday thing. It's the December quiets. I don't know. Everybody's busy. There we go. If I talk long enough, somebody will pop up. Thank you, Heidi.
So I can, what was running through my mind is that if I do video assessments, I have to watch all those videos to do the assessment. And so I agree with all that you're saying about authenticity, and probably a better way to do some assessments. But we have courses that have 100 students in it, and so are there any suggestions on how to utilize that in a large classroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have really large cohorts in some places. I think there's a few different things to think about. I think if video assessment's being used as an alternative to another form of assessment, then potentially the time is just taken from one to the other. However, I think the benefit of something like GoReact or a video assessment solution is that it doesn't always have to be you that is giving the feedback, and that it might be the final assessment has to be verified by an instructor or an assessor. But then if we're enabling students to give peer feedback, we're giving them rubrics that they can use to critically assess throughout the learning process. And that doesn't all have to come from the instructor or the educator. It could be a combination of peer review, self-reflection, and teaching assistance, and it might be that you look at the sort of the summative or the end point, but you don't have to look at that all the way through. So using the cohort and the different stakeholders to feedback as part of that process.
Yes, and I see Glenn also, he chimed in the chat about offering the video option for discussion forums, and students have utilized it, have created some fantastic presentations. Yes, and I've heard that from others. To Jenny's point about perhaps if it's a project that a group is working on, that video gives them the chance to go through the drafts and iterate, the students to iterate before it gets to the instructor for that final check.
I think as well, Heidi, some of the tools that we've got within our solution include marker sets that an educator could define, so that if peers are looking at others' videos, they've got a structured way of giving feedback that means something. Because I often think that this big open-ended, well, give something feedback, think, well, there's a big difference from saying that's good to why is it good, what impact has it had, you know. So you can create set of markers that can be shared, and you can have consistent feedback, student rubrics that can be used so that they have a framework for giving feedback as well. So the more structure, and of course as part of our service we help design and create those, but once they're created once, like a mark sheet, it can be used by everybody in the same way. So that structure allows the feedback to be purposeful as well. So I know that it feels like a big jump saying to your students, well, you go and review each other's work. They think, oh my goodness, what are they going to say? How are they going to do it? And we can give them as much structure in that feedback process as possible. That's very powerful because it actually asks the students to really be thinking about what they're looking at. What,
right,
you know, and not.
One thing that just popped into my mind is I've been really trying I teach in dietetics, so nutrition and that kind of thing. And I will get students that when you do sort of use that sort of flipped classroom ideas that, you know, you learn, and I try to tell the students, I say, oh, you know, active learning is how you're going to learn this, you know, memorizing for a test isn't going to work. Anyway, well, do you have any suggestions for keeping students from feeling like I'm standing in the back of the room doing nothing and they're doing all the work, you know, meaning, you know, that they're peer reviewing each other. What's the instructor doing? You know, what did I pay tuition for? So do you have any suggestions on how to teach them that this is the new way to learn and that, you know, it isn't us? And the best words I've come up with is things like that their tuition's paying for the fact that I spent a year coming up with how to teach this class and putting together the activities, because my job isn't to teach you. My job is to facilitate your learning. Do you have any
Absolutely.
other ways to maybe verbalize that?
I think that's a wonderful point, and I think that I have a nearly 21-year-old in February, and he's exactly the same. I'm paying all of his money, and he's studying pharmacology, so it's very medical. You know, there's a right answer and a wrong answer, so he's expecting to be given a pass. And this sort of active learning process is quite hard in some ways to stomach, though he came home from university at the end of last semester and said, I'm doing so much lab work, but I don't get assessed on it because I get assessed on the essay. He said, I should be getting assessed on my ability to do this lab work, but I stand next to this person. And I sort of said, well, what is, when you're with your lab partner, how are you engaging? How do you know how each other are doing? Oh, well, we talk about it, we show each other what we're doing. I can see that when I started doing that experiment at the beginning of the semester compared to how I'm doing it now is very different. And then we start to unpack this. Okay, what you're able to do is see progression over time. You're able to monitor and see how the ways that you've been doing partner work or discussion or presentations has developed your understanding of a particular subject. And as you say, you're a facilitator of all of that. They wouldn't be able to do that on their own. They don't naturally go out and think, well, if I have a discussion about this, I might be able to understand it a little bit better. So I think that, I don't know about the language specifically, I can definitely think about it, but I think sort of saying to these young people that haven't had the experience, you know, we're enabling you to practice, to reflect in a way that you couldn't do had you just submitted something and that I'd marked it. You're able to see evidence of your application of that knowledge in a way that you haven't been able to see it before, and take responsibility of that progress and the speed at which that's adopted or accepted or passed. And you're giving them lots of these opportunities by affording them access to things like GoReact or videos. So I think that responsibility for their learning, and the active learning enabling them to see progress over time. And I can definitely think about other narrative and words around that. And the little QR code that I shared, there might be some tools within that little pack there as well that would be worth having a look at.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, to that point, actually, Jenny, if you can get back to that slide easily, we did have a few people who came in after, I believe, after you covered that portion. So maybe they want to grab that. So we'll give them a chance to
Absolutely
get the great resources. I'm always a big like, go back and let's get all the resources out to people we can, because we love that. But
absolutely,
yes.
and feel free if we can share that as well more broadly. Everybody's very welcome to access.
Yes. And this is being recorded. So those of you who came in late or had to pop off or whatever, or watching this in the future, this is, we'll send out the replay to people who registered, and we'll make that available, more widely so that others can grab that. That'd be great. But yes, I think Heidi's question is a common one that I've heard as well. I spend a lot of time in the gamification space, and and when somebody tries something different, whatever it is, whether it's video or it's gamification, whatever the new thing is, there's kind of that learning curve of like getting past expectations that what education has been and what it is, what the students expect when they walk in, that people are just going to hand them information, or they're going to, teach them everything they need to know. So yeah, so I think I appreciate that Heidi asked about that.
I do, and I think that it really does wrap right back to this point of the application of what you've learned, and the ability to evidence what the combination of knowledge and skill. Yeah. And not everything's appropriate for that type of teaching, for sure. But I think that we're moving more to, even if the skill isn't directly related to the specific knowledge, the need for durable skills and transferable skills, which are so important for anybody, whether they be in education or whether they be employees in their career, the ability to continue to refine those skills and use them in different ways, it will always be important. So the kind of critical thinking and the ability to listen and the ability to negotiate and present, it depends which part of the skills matrix you're looking at, are always important. So that combination of taking the knowledge in a particular course or in a particular area of work and using durable skills will continue to be needed. So that I suppose it's talking to young people about the application of things and how they can see that advancing them through whatever stage they're at.
I love that. I love that because giving them it's that age-old question, like, when am I ever going to use this? Like, but if they understand better that yes, maybe algebra will have some relevance to their life if other than passing the test, as you said earlier. So I love all of that. And so I'm just checking to see, I don't see any additional questions currently, but the floor is still open if someone wants to chime in. But I'll take a moment while people are thinking, just to thank you so much, Jenny, for being here, because this has been great. And I hope that those watching it in the future also just know that they can always reach out to you, learn more. I always try to push people, go learn more if you haven't quite seen GoReact in action, or you have questions or anything like that. So I think you probably have a contact there.
That's my contact info. We're always so grateful to hear from anybody with questions or ideas or suggestions or anything. Like, we love to talk to our educators. That's what we're all about, what we're built on. So please do feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. I have not reached out to Jenny before, but just other vendors and sponsors. I used to be one of those people that when I went to conferences, I kind of like walked through the exhibit hall like hiding, because I was like, I don't buy the stuff and I can't, you don't want to talk to me. And then I found out over time, no, actually they do. They want to talk to all of us, because that's how they help all of us, is by knowing what the needs, what your pain points are. So we had some with Heather and Heidi, we had some good. Those are two little pain points that I think they voiced, but there was probably a lot of heads nodding in the background, I'm guessing, as they were asking those questions.
Sure.
But so I'm just checking one more time. Let's see, questions, not quite yet. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for spending a little bit of their Friday. I know Fridays are hard. People want to run away, excuse me, for the weekend. But I want to thank everybody for attending. I'm not logging off just yet, but I'll stop the recording in a few minutes if we don't have more questions, but we'll stay behind. And I always say it that way because occasionally there's somebody who just doesn't want to ask their question on the recording. I've had that happen frequently. So I always just kind of go, okay, I'm not kicking you out. But I will do a final thank you, and I'll do a final reminder that if you appreciate this content, please reach out to the team at GoReact. Also, stay in touch with all of us at USDLA. You might want to consider becoming a member of USDLA. That would be really cool too, because you'd have access to not just this, but other great content and a bunch of member discounts and benefits and all that you can check out on our website at usdla.org. And I'll go ahead and I'll just pop my email into the chat in case anybody has a question they want to email me with. So see if I can type and talk at the same time. That is a skill that some days works and some days doesn't. So we'll see how that goes today.
You're better than me.
There we go. I got it. I did it. So I'm ending the recording now, but thank you all. You don't have to run away right this second, but I just wanted to do the formal thank you before I stop the recording.